Hey guys, Tarke here, and I want to cover my potential starter build for 3.0. Now, before I get into this, this is merely a build outline for both and or Dark Pact or ED Contagion. This is before we've had the patch notes for 3.0. This is just something that I'm planning out, which will allow me to try out Dark Pact. If I like Dark Pact, great. If I don't, I'm going ED Contagion. So, what is kind of the thought process behind this build? What are the finer details? So on and so forth. Now, the thing with Dark Pact is an AoE skill, which does chaos damage. So you kind of go for like, okay, where can I get chaos damage? And you pick up the chaos nodes on the tree, and then you pick up the AoE nodes, and then you pick up some spell damage, and then seems good. Because I'm not sure if I want to go for Dark Pact or ED, I've just made a super generic tree. Obviously, you wouldn't take these damage over time nodes. If you went Dark Pact, you would drop those, and you would instead fill in, I don't know, like Revenge of the Hunted. But as you can see, it is a 200% life tree with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jewels, and I'm expecting you'll get most of your damage from the jewels, and I'd most likely do something kind of like Hidden Potential, maybe. Obviously, Trickster might not be the best option for Dark Pact. However, I'm not too confident in Dark Pact just because it's such a weird skill. I don't know how it works. So having that as my first character seems kind of iffy. So I kind of want to just like level an ED character, but test out Dark Pact while I'm leveling it so I can get like a feel for the skill when I have some chaos investment and stuff. And then when we know more about the skill, I'm more informed, I can then go on to make like a Berserker or an Occultist or something. But this is kind of just like my like test kind of character. So as you can see, it has a decent amount of life even without these nodes here, even if we did assume this is just a normal ED build. You've got 186% life, but with 5 jewels, that's very respectable at 110 points. For Bandits, you'd go for the 2 passive points. If you didn't want to go for the 2 passive points, you could go for Caitlyn for the attack, cast, and movement speed. If you're not aware, Trickster has received a rather substantial buff in the updated Swift Killer. Swift Killer now gives you +1 to maximum frenzy and power charges, 5% increased damage over time per frenzy and power charge, and 15% chance to gain a frenzy charge and a power charge on kill. Because this is a mind over matter build, we haven't gone for Shade Form, we've gone for Patient Reaper, Weave the Arcane, and Walk the Aether. Again, most likely an ED build. So Patient Reaper is just insane. In fact, it gives us some damage over time scaling and a massive boost to our life and mana regeneration after we've killed an enemy affected by our damage over time, which is just a very nice way of keeping the MoM floating on quite neatly. Walk the Aether gives us a massive attack and cast speed steroid if we've used a movement skill recently, and means our movement skills cost nothing. This basically is just a big DPS clear, and you just want, to have that swinging increased, attack and cast speed all the way through, because it means you're always, shield charging faster, casting your ED Contagion faster, or Dark Pact, but probably not, but you get my point. Weave the Arcane just gives you more mana, some more mana regen. It gives you chance to recover mana whenever you use a skill, and 8% reduced 8% reduced damage taken 4 seconds after spending 200 mana. So basically, we get a bunch of mana stuff, we get a bunch of damage for our ED Contagion, and also an important thing to note why I'm considering ED for my first character is they've added scaling radius to Contagion now, meaning that the AoE nerfs, which hit Contagion, a lot of people kind of abandoned ED after the Contagion nerfs, and it was still playable. I played it last league and I actually found it quite fine. But they've buffed the AoE on Contagion now, so it gains scaling radius. And also, they've made Blasphemy have a slightly larger AoE. So that in conjunction basically means that a build which already felt fine has gotten a bunch of new support gems through the new supports to make up for the loss of double dipping. It kind of all balances out. Now, the reason as to why I don't take Sniper is I'm fairly sure that Essence Raid no longer scales with projectile damage. But that is something I need to mess around with a little bit. And yeah, the main bulk of my damage scaling is going to come through Hidden Potential, which for each magic item equipped gives you 25% increased generic global damage, and through jewel stacking, so even with 1 Hidden Potential, that's still 4 jewels which can be stacked with either just generic damage, chaos damage, damage over time, etc. We pick up an additional power charge here because if you don't know, power charges now give you more spell damage. And also we are planning on using a Arapla, the silly nick, the neck which gives you, okay, there's a neck which gives you Araliadax. I can't, someone in chat knows what I mean. It's, sorry, I should have had this pre-prepared. It's an amulet which gives you 1% of mana taken before life for each power charge. It also gives you increased mana regeneration per power charge. It reduces your crit, but this isn't a crit build, so we don't care at all. And it has really nice synergy with the whole Trickster thing because it also gives 100% increased power charge duration, meaning we will always have Swift Killer power charge damage every time active, since it's a massive boost to that. And we'll end up getting a bunch of more damage and then a bunch of increased damage thanks to Swift Killer, which then also further buffs up our mind over matter and gives us some more mana regen. And yeah, that is basically the outline of the build. As you can see, I haven't really planned anything too crazy in terms of items or even links, since I'm still not sure exactly what I want to do with it. But that is kind of that. And again, this is something that I'm going to use to experiment with Dark Pact. But if you wanted to make a pure Dark Pact character, I would probably recommend going for Berserker, just because 40% more damage is 40% more damage. And we don't really know the final workings of the skill. I think that if you want to go CI ED Contagion, which is still perfectly fine, like it is completely fine, I would probably go for Occultist and go with crazy curse stacking. Trickster is still fine. Trickster will have an easier initial clear and gearing because it gets the flat energy shield. And you could also go for life-based Scion, and then you would go with Occultist for the 15% Chaos Pen if you've cursed an enemy, comboed with Deadeye, which gives you a inbuilt +2 Pierce, which just makes the build feel a little bit smoother, and an additional projectile. Now, the projectile damage, I believe, I'm not 100%, won't scale the ED anymore, but having the extra quality of life is rather helpful. Comboed with the Occultist, it just makes it a very smooth character. But they've added so much damage scaling through Trickster that's like, if you're going dot-based, Trickster is really, really solid. But yes, so this is what I think I might do. This is all very much subject to change while we wait for the new patch notes, but I just thought I'd throw this out there. If you guys do have any other suggestions for this build or other things that you would kind of like me to do rough outlines for, please do let me know, but I'm kind of hesitant of doing full build guides, as it were, before we get the patch notes. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.